well, how can you create a business in a period of incredible uncertainty, and how can you enable that unsourced future? As businesses start to consider their future direction, there's now a once-in-a-lifetime chance to totally transform the organisation. Joining us now to discuss this live, Neil Butler, Director at Untypical. How are you doing?
Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
I'm very well. What is an untypical business if it isn't operating right now?
Well, I would have thought so. We set up our business Untypical to take a different approach to the way businesses operate. And there's lots of consultants out there, and we just wanted to step aside and do something a bit different, and Untypical is where we came from.
So what's your advice to businesses right now, quite generally?
Well, at the moment, you've got this massive opportunity. You know, people look at the businesses, the opportunity to start again. You know, and I'm using the 3 R's, not reading, writing and arithmetic. Interestingly, only one of those starts with R. But reset, reestablish, regenerate. So the reset's kind of like a big Control-Alt-Delete for the business, and most businesses have done that now already. The reestablishment thing is the key. And I think that's where businesses need to start thinking really seriously.
Well, go into that for us. When we talk about reset and re-establishment, it very much sounds like starting all over again, because the first thing might be we need to take a look at ourselves, but then you want to establish yourself as quickly as possible during a very uncertain time. So how can you re-establish yourself when you're not quite yet sure where the cards are about to fall?
And I think this is the big challenge. And if you look at most businesses, they're in business continuity mode, not business development, business flourish, it's business survival mode. And there's a group of people out there who have set up to do that piece of work. And typically the senior people close to the top of the organisational diagram, the people who know a lot about how the business used to operate, well, their point of view now is less important, I would have thought. We need to get creative folk in there and say, how can we do this? If we were starting again, what would we want our business to look like?
So you're suggesting that this is a time to have a look at some of the old practices and to say, we are very much unlikely to return to normal. Mm-hmm. So are you the right person to carry on with us to where we need to go?
Yeah, business is most unusual is what I'm talking about. There are people out there saying, I can't wait to get back to business as usual. What is business as usual these days? And so I think where we're getting to now is to say, right, those people have done a massive job in getting the business continuity thing to keep going. Let's find another group of people, the people who've got the energy, the creativity, the innovation, dare I say transformational thinking, to go forward and create something totally new. As though it's almost like if your house burns down and you decide to rebuild, what would you do differently? Would you make a bigger backyard so you can put a swimming pool in? Would you put an extra bedroom in? So rather than saying, where are we now? How can we move from here? It's almost where would we want to be if we were starting again?
Well, it's very true. In the world of the arts, we do rehearsals because you don't always get it right the first time, and generally the best performance is your fourth performance as opposed to your first, second or third. And making the house analogy is so important there as well. I guess there's just so many outside factors that are at play right now. And would you say that when you're trying to determine where to go, you need to be broad in what you're looking at? You think about businesses that are reliant on the China-Australia relationship right now. They probably are not going to be going back to business as usual for quite some time. So what's your advice for businesses when their entire customer base has changed?
Well, I think this is the point. The employees' expectations have changed, customer base has changed, suppliers' expectations have changed, shareholders' expectations have changed. So I think where I'd be going is getting a group of people who have got creative thinking and sit down and say, what could this be? Not what should it be. Should implies that there's some rules to run with. There are no rules anymore. There is this concept of a new normal. What is the new normal? Well, the new normal is whatever you want it to be. And there will never be an opportunity to be like this. And we're encouraging people to sit down and just dream. I know this sounds like pie in the sky.
No, I understand. I agree. I guess the thing that I see is it comes down to communication.
Yes.
So the boss might see this, the CEO might see this, the board might see this, the CFO may not want to see it, obviously, because CFOs like certainty and stability and maps and figures and to know what the future is going to hold for the company. But if you're a CEO and you are trying to deal with a whole bunch of staff who don't like change, and you're trying to dream big, think outside, rebuild the house, how do you take the people in the organisation with you?
I think you've got to start looking at who's driving it. And I think if you look at a lot of those organisations, I've worked in them for years, that where the boss says and the people do, where I think we're getting to now is bringing different people. And I don't mean bringing in consultants and bringing in those sort of people. I'm saying the people who have been operating in the middle management levels, who have got ideas about how things could be. If you go and ask anybody on the floor of any corporation outside of the senior management team, they'll say, I tell you, if I was doing it, I'd do it this way. We'll get those people in. And if people see others at their level of the organisation starting to drive change, they'll go with them more so than somebody who sits in an office that they never see.
Renewal is always the way that capitalism has been able to continue working. The idea that some businesses get too big, then they fail, then new businesses come through and push us in the direction we need to go. Look at Elon Musk right now. You know, he's really proving and turning the old car companies on their head, etc. Do some businesses just need to fail so the managers can start all over again with the right team? Or is it actually possible to keep renewing yourself? And how often do we renew ourselves? Is it something that we should be doing quite regularly, or is it something we do off the back of a crisis? Because obviously all businesses, they start somewhere, they want to get to somewhere, they find a way to make money, then they try to perfect the way they make money, they try and make some more money, but then they roughly stay in the same state of mind because they've gotten to that point. And you can't blame them for going, well, we've found a product that works, why on earth would we change it?
And I think now we had a product that used to work is the one thing that's so different about where we are at the moment. Obviously, you look at your background, you know, you were working with organisations that had been doing that stuff for 50, 100 years, depending on whether you were doing TV or radio.
Well, but television, the advertising model has been the same since it was invented by a bunch of blokes on Madison Avenue in the 1930s. The idea of we'll put ads on TV, you'll run them, we'll get to a mass audience, they'll buy the products, and around and around it goes, was great. But these days, well, obviously, the consumers kind of moved first. So you look at it and you think to yourself, I woke up one day and said, I don't know if I'm going to have a job at 45. I can't understand how this model is going to carry on. Will people continue paying subscription fees? Will people, I don't know. We have no idea. And that kind of started building in my head, but I don't know if it built in the heads of anyone else.
And this is why entrepreneurs are successful, because people aren't prepared to take those risks. And you know, I've been in the banking sector for the last 2 or 3 years in my work that I've been doing, and those organisations have been doing the same thing for 500 years, 600 years, 800 years, however long banking in some form has been going. But now you're seeing the fintechs come through. And they're saying, you know,
well, digital banks are just turning them on their heads, right? There's absolutely, I have no idea how, when you're a National Australia Bank or a Commonwealth or ANZ, and the touch points are disappearing. Right now, no one wants to touch anything, so you're trying to stay clear of ATMs, you're not wanting to go into bank branches. So you're having the same experience with your bank, whether you are with a neobank or with a traditional bank. Something's got to give from the big bank side, and it's usually staff.
Yeah, and I think also, I think the model that says, at the moment, if you think about, you know, some of those lenders you see on TV, they're just doing car finance, or they're just doing home finance. They're not trying to be all things to all people. And that, you can do the same thing across all sectors. You know, I was in the oil industry for a long time. How service stations have changed. No one runs out and puts petrol in the car now.
No, the good old days.
It's all about getting people into the shop. You know, so the fuel only brings people.
And that was again based on human behaviour, right? Because we all drive around and we look at the numbers, and if you see the numbers on that servo higher than the numbers on that servo, you ain't going to go there. You're going to go to that one, depending on whether people come out and fill up your car. The way they try and make the money back is from what happens inside the store.
Absolutely, no doubt in the world. And that's been not so much a revolution, but an evolution over years. We've got this opportunity, and that's why we keep on coming back to, you know, if you take the opportunity now, you'll never get another chance, we hope, like this, to actually reset your business, re-establish it.
Are we too conservative as a country? Like, let's just use that analogy you just came up with. When I think of who does it best, I actually think of 7-Eleven. They've got cheap products in store. They're not trying to flog all these things at you when you walk in the store. It's not an unpleasant experience, yet it's an experience that encourages you to spend money, which I think is the way that all businesses should be. It shouldn't be unpleasant, but it should encourage you to spend money, and there should be good value for the customer. We seem to forget that. I feel like too many businesses that I deal with from a customer perspective, it's you're there to help the business, and there's almost a guilt put on that should you be helping Australian business. I don't care if it's not helping me.
Absolutely, and I think by nature we are a risk-averse organisation, particularly when the words like shareholders get thrown around. As soon as that happens, we all go, oh, we can't do that.
Imagine how they're feeling right now with the banks.
Absolutely. And given that most of us have got our super involved in organisations that support banks, or banks support them, we're all getting a bit edgy about it.
Absolutely.
But I think it's a case of take the opportunity, take a risk. If it all falls over in 3 months, you're no worse off than what you are now.
Yeah, and now's the time to give it a try, see if it works, see if it's a growth area.
Absolutely.
Be wary of lost leaders at a time like now.
And watch the others follow you. That's the other thing.
True.
If you set the new normal, your competitors will chase you rather than you chasing them.
That's it. All right. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Good to be here.
Appreciate it. Yeah.